The rope was still tight around my neck when I opened my eyes. I could feel the ghost of it, the rough hemp biting into my flesh, the creak of the wooden beam above me, the jeers of the crowd below. I had died. I had felt my soul leave my body, watched my mother collapse in the front row, seen Yating wipe a tear from her eye with the corner of her silk sleeve. And then nothing. Blackness. And now, cold stone beneath my cheek. The smell of sandalwood. The murmur of servants beyond the heavy oak doors. I was in the ancestral hall. The day of the accusation. The day before my execution. I pushed myself up on trembling arms, my body screaming in protest. Every muscle ached, every bone felt like it had been shattered and poorly mended. My fingers found my throat, tracing the skin there. Smooth. Unbroken. No rope burn. No bruises. I was alive. No. I was more than alive. I was reborn. The doors slammed open before I could process the thought further, and the sound of hurried footsteps filled the hall. I didn't need to look up. I knew the rhythm of that walk, the soft whisper of silk against the stone floor. I had heard it every day of my life, always followed by honeyed words and poisoned deeds. Su-jin. A voice I had once loved like my own soul. How could you? Mother is beside herself. I looked up. Lin Yuting stood in the doorway, backlit by the morning sun, her hair perfectly arranged, her robes impeccable. Even in the midst of a family scandal, she managed to look like a celestial maiden descended from heaven. Her eyes were wide, her lips parted in a perfect expression of wounded innocence. In my past life, I had reached for her. I had begged her to believe me. I had wept at her feet, convinced that if my dear sister could just see the truth, everything would be fine. This time, I rose to my feet slowly, brushing the dust from my gown. I said nothing. I just watched her. Her composure flickered. Just slightly. A muscle in her jaw tightened. Have you gone mute from shame? The magistrate is waiting. Father has called for him. The heirlooms were found in your chamber, Su-jin. All of them. There's no escaping this. The heirlooms, I repeated, my voice hoarse from disuse. It wasn't the voice of the broken girl who had died on that scaffold. It was something colder, sharper. Which heirlooms would those be, Yating? She stepped closer, her face a mask of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mother's jade hairpin. The emerald pendant grandmother left her. The gold bracelet from Aunt Qing. She ticked them off on her fingers as if reciting a lesson. I saw them myself, sister. The servants found them under your bed. I tried to defend you, I truly did. But the evidence, you tried to defend me, I said flatly. How noble of you. She reached out as if to take my hand, and I stepped back. The movement was instinctive. The memory of her testifying against me was too fresh. I could still hear her sobbing voice in the courtroom. She has always been jealous of me, Your Honor. I never wanted to believe she could do such a thing, but the proof is undeniable. Yating's hand hung in the air for a moment before she let it drop. Her eyes narrowed, just a fraction. Why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like you know something? She tilted her head, studying me. You look different. Did you sleep at all last night? I had died last night. But she didn't know that. She thought I was still the same naive fool who had trusted her implicitly, who had never questioned her motives, who had believed every tear she shed. I let the silence stretch between us. In the distance, I could hear the servants murmuring outside the hall. The entire household knew what had happened. They all believed I was a thief. They all believed I had betrayed my family name. Where is father? I asked finally. He is with the magistrate. They are discussing the appropriate consequences. Yating's lips twitched. You know what happened to Aunt Qing's daughter when she was caught stealing? She was banished to the countryside. She died of fever within a year. Father wouldn't banish me. Father doesn't have a choice. Yating stepped closer again, and this time I let her. I needed to see her face when she said what was coming next. The magistrate is talking about execution, Su-jin. The heirlooms were worth a fortune. And the way they were hidden under your bed, with your personal seal on the box. It looks like premeditated theft. My personal seal. I felt a cold fury settle in my chest. She had used my seal. Of course she had. She had access to my chambers whenever she wanted. She had been stealing from me for years, and I had been too blind to see it. Execution, I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. That's quite severe for a first offense. Yu Ting's eyes gleamed. The magistrate is a friend of General Wei's family, you see. And General Wei has made it clear that he cannot marry a woman with a tarnished reputation. The engagement will be dissolved, one way or another. Father is hoping that if you accept your punishment quietly, the family honor can be preserved. The engagement. Wei Cheng. The man who had stood in the front row of my execution, his face carved from stone, his eyes filled with disgust. He had believed her lies. He had watched me die without a word. But in this life, he hadn't watched me die yet. In this life, I was still standing. The engagement, I said slowly, is very important to you, isn't it? Yu Ting, her mask slipped. Just for a second. What are you talking about? You've always wanted him, I said, watching her face carefully. From the moment you saw him at the engagement banquet, you've wanted him for yourself. You told me once that you thought he was the most handsome man you'd ever seen. Do you remember? Her face flushed. I was young. I didn't mean you meant it, I cut her off. You meant every word. And now you've found a way to get rid of me. Plant the heirlooms in my room. Weep to the magistrate. Whisper to father about how I've always been jealous of you. It's a beautiful plan, Yu Ting. Really. I almost admire it. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing. For the first time since she had walked through those doors, she looked genuinely rattled. Su Jin, you're not making sense. I am trying to help you. If you confess now, father might show leniency. He might exile you instead of executing me, I laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. You think I don't know what you've done? I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the letter I had found in her room this morning. In my past life, I had never thought to search her chambers. I had respected her privacy. I had trusted her. But this time, I had woken up early. I had gone to her room while she was still sleeping. And I had found the proof I needed. It was a letter addressed to General Wei. In my handwriting. Or rather, in a handwriting so perfectly forged that even I could barely tell the difference. It's a confession, I said, holding it up. It says that I stole the heirlooms because I was planning to run away with a traveling merchant. That I had been unfaithful to Wei Cheng before we were even married. That I was never worthy of the Lin family name. Yu Ting's face went pale. That's not where did you get that from your room, I said. Hidden inside your vanity. Behind the false panel. Did you really think I wouldn't find it? She lunged for the letter, her composure completely gone. I stepped back, holding it above her reach. Give it to me, she shrieked. Or what, I said coldly. You'll tell father I attacked you. You'll cry to the servants that I'm violent and unstable. I shook my head. I know all your tricks, Yu Ting. I've seen every single one. The tears. The trembling voice. The way you look at people with those wide, innocent eyes while you're sticking a knife in their back. You're insane. She was panting now, her carefully arranged hair falling loose around her face. No one will believe you. I have the support of the magistrate. I have the support of the servants. Everyone knows I've always been the good one, the kind one, the one who never causes trouble. And you. You're the headstrong eldest daughter. The one who argues with father. The one who refuses to marry the man he chose for her. Who do you think they'll believe? Probably you, I admitted. You're right. You've spent years building this reputation. Years cultivating your image as the sweet, gentle sister. But you made one mistake, Yu Ting. She froze. What mistake? You left the receipt. Her eyes went wide. What receipt? The receipt for the box, I said. The one you commissioned from the jeweler. The one with the special seal. The one you used to hide the heirlooms before you planted them in my room. I pulled the small piece of parchment from my other sleeve. It's right here. Signed and dated. With your name on it. She stared at the receipt like it was a serpent about to strike. That's not, I never you did, I said quietly. And when I show this to father, when I show it to the magistrate, they'll start asking questions. Questions about why you commissioned a box with a hidden compartment. Questions about why you visited the jeweler 3 days before the heirlooms went missing. Questions about why your handwriting matches the letter you forged. She was trembling now, her face a mask of pure hatred. You think this changes anything? You think anyone will believe you over me? I don't know, I said honestly. But I know that you've just lost the element of surprise. I know that you're scared. And I know that I will never, ever trust you again. The doors to the hall burst open, and my father strode in, followed by the magistrate. Behind them came my mother, her face pale and streaked with tears. She had been crying. Of course she had been crying. She had always been too soft, too easily manipulated by Yating's lies. Su-jin, my father thundered. On your knees. The magistrate is here to hear your confession. I didn't move. Instead, I held up the letter and the receipt. Father, before you say another word, I need you to look at these. My father's eyes narrowed. What are those proof? I said. Proof that Yating framed me. The hall fell silent. Even the magistrate, who had been preparing to pronounce my sentence, stopped in his tracks. Don't listen to her. Yating shrieked. She's lying. She's always been jealous of me. She's trying to destroy me because I discovered her crime. Father, I said, ignoring her completely, please. Just look at the letter. Look at the handwriting. Then look at the receipt. You'll see the same hand. The same ink. The same seal. She forged my handwriting. She planted the evidence. She wanted me dead so she could take my place with Wei Chung. My father took the documents from my hands, his face unreadable. My mother stepped closer, peering over his shoulder. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then my father looked up. His eyes were not on me. They were on Yating. Yating, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. Explain this. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For the first time in her life, the Viper had no words. And I knew, in that moment, that the battle had only just begun. The silence in the ancestral hall was so thick I could taste it. My father stood frozen, the letter and receipt trembling in his hands. My mother had gone completely still, her tears forgotten, her eyes fixed on Yating with an expression I had never seen before. It was the look of someone watching a mask crumble. Yating's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The perfect porcelain composure she had spent years cultivating was cracking wide open, and beneath it was something ugly. Something desperate. That's not, she started, her voice high and strained. Father, she's lying. She must have planted those documents in my room. She's trying to frame me because she knows she's been caught. Plant them, I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. How could I plant them, Yating? I've been locked in this hall since dawn. The servants can confirm it. I haven't left this room. So tell me, dear sister, how exactly did I manage to plant a receipt in your vanity while I was under guard? Her face flushed a deep, mottled red. You must have done it before. You must have planned this. You've been plotting against me for weeks. Plotting, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been plotting against you. You're the one who spent months forging letters in my handwriting. You're the one who bribed the servants to swear they saw me stealing. You're the one who whispered poison in the magistrate's ear while pretending to weep for my soul. I turned to my father. She wants Wei Chung for herself. She's always wanted him. This wasn't about revenge or jealousy. This was about getting me out of the way so she could take my place. My father's face was a storm of conflicting emotions. I could see the war raging behind his eyes. He wanted to believe Yating. He had always favored her. She was the sweet one, the obedient one, the daughter who never caused him any trouble. I was the difficult one, the headstrong one, the one who questioned his decisions and spoke her mind too freely. But the evidence was damning. And my father was, above all else, a man who valued his reputation. If it became known that his favorite daughter had framed her own sister for theft and faced execution, the scandal would destroy him. Lord Lin, the magistrate, spoke up, his voice carefully neutral. This is unexpected. Perhaps we should adjourn to my office and discuss this matter privately. No. Yating's voice rose to a near shriek. There's nothing to discuss. She's lying. I've done nothing wrong. I am innocent. Then explain the receipt, I said quietly. Explain the forged letter. Explain why your seal is on the jeweler's commission. Explain it, Yating. I'm listening. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. No sound came out. The magistrate cleared his throat. I've seen many cases of theft and deception in my years on the bench. But this. He shook his head, his eyes fixed on Yating with a cold, assessing look. This is something else entirely. Forgery is a serious crime, my lady. If proven, It carries severe penalties. Exile. Confiscation of property. Even execution in some cases. Yating went pale. You can't. I'm a lady of the Lin household. You can't threaten me like this. Lady or not, the magistrate said coldly, the law applies to all. If you have indeed forged documents to frame your sister, you will face the consequences. My mother stepped forward, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. Yating, please. If you have done this, just tell us the truth. We can still have the truth. Yating spun on her, her eyes wild. You want the truth, fine. Yes, I did it. I planted the heirlooms. I forged the letter. I told the servants to lie. I did everything you're accusing me of. She was screaming now, her carefully cultivated innocence completely abandoned. And why? Because I'm tired of being the second daughter. Tired of watching her get everything. The betrothal to Wei Cheng. Mother's favor. The best rooms in the house. Everything was always given to her, and I was always left with the scraps. My mother recoiled as if she had been struck. Yating, don't you dare look at me like that. Yating spat. You were just as bad as everyone else. Always fussing over Su Jin, always praising her, always making sure she had the best of everything. Do you know what it was like growing up in her shadow? Do you know what it felt like to be invisible? I watched her, feeling nothing but cold clarity. In my past life, I had wept for her. I had begged the guards to let me see her one last time, to tell her I forgave her. But now, watching her unravel, I felt nothing but contempt. She had killed me. She had stood in that courtroom and wept false tears while I was sentenced to death. She had smiled as I was led to the scaffold. And now, in this life, she was finally showing her true face to everyone. Father, I said quietly, do you see now? Do you see what she is? My father's face was ashen. He looked at Yating, then at me, then back at Yating. The letter and receipt were crumpled in his fist. You would have let your sister die, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You would have watched her hang. She deserved it. Yating screamed. She always acted like she was better than me. Like she was too good for this family. Do you know how many times I heard her complain about being betrothed to General Wei? He's so stern, she would say. He never smiles. She didn't want him. She never wanted him. But she had him anyway, because that's what always happens. Su Jin gets everything she wants, and I get nothing. I felt a sharp sting of something I hadn't expected. Regret. In my past life, I had complained about Wei Cheng. I had been foolish and young and terrified of being married to a man I barely knew. I had vented to Yating, thinking she was my confidant, my closest friend. And all that time, she had been storing up my words like weapons to use against me. Yating, I said slowly, if you had told me you wanted the betrothal, I would have stepped aside. I never wanted to marry him. I told you that. I thought you understood. Understood, she laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You thought I understood. You were so blind, Su Jin. You were always so blind. You never saw anything that was right in front of you. You never saw how much I hated you. You never saw how much I wanted what you had. You just went through life like everything was handed to you on a silver platter, never once thinking about anyone else. That's enough, my father roared. Guards. Take her to the holding room. Now. 2 guards stepped forward and seized Yating by the arms. She struggled against them, her hair coming loose from its pins, her silk robes tearing at the shoulder. You'll regret this, she screamed at me. All of you will regret this. I have allies you don't even know about. I have friends in the magistrate's court. I have connections with the general's family. You think this is over? This is just the beginning. Take her away, my father shouted, and the guards dragged her out of the hall, her screams echoing off the high ceiling. The doors slammed shut behind them, and silence descended once again. My father slumped against a pillar, his face buried in his hands. My mother collapsed onto a nearby bench, weeping quietly. The magistrate stood off to the side, his expression unreadable. I remained standing in the center of the hall, my heart pounding in my chest. The first battle was won. Yating was exposed. But I could still hear her words echoing in my ears. Allies in the magistrate's court. Connections with the general's family. This wasn't over. It was never going to be over. Su Jin. My father's voice was hoarse. He lifted his head and looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes that looked like shame. I should have believed you. I should have listened to you from the beginning. Yes, I said quietly. You should have. He flinched, but he didn't argue. I will speak with the magistrate. We will ensure that Yu Ting faces justice. Your name will be cleared. The betrothal to General Wei will stand. I don't want the betrothal, I said. He stared at me. What I said, I don't want the betrothal. I met his eyes steadily. I never wanted it. I told you that many times, but you never listened. You made the arrangement without asking me. You expected me to accept it without question. And now, after everything that's happened, you think I'm going to simply fall into line and marry the man who is ready to let me hang. He didn't know, he didn't ask. I raised my voice for the first time. He didn't investigate. He didn't demand proof. He heard the accusation and he believed it, just like everyone else. He stood in that courtroom and looked at me like I was dirt beneath his boots, and you think I can marry a man like that? My mother looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Gina, please. The engagement is the only thing holding our family together. If you break it now, the scandal will. I don't care about the scandal. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I have been through something you cannot possibly understand. I have been accused, imprisoned, and condemned to death for a crime I didn't commit. I have felt the rope around my neck. I have felt my soul leave my body. And I have come back with one thing and one thing only, the determination to live my life on my own terms. Neither of them spoke. They just stared at me, their faces a mixture of shock and confusion. Su-jin, my father finally said, his voice cautious. What do you mean? You felt your soul leave your body? That's not possible. You're still here. You're still alive. I know, I said quietly. But I also know what it feels like to die. And I know that I will never let anyone else decide my fate. Not you. Not Yu Ting. Not General Wei. I met his eyes. The betrothal is over. If you want to salvage our family's reputation, you can have General Wei marry Yu Ting. She's certainly done enough to earn it. Marry Yu Ting, my father's voice rose in disbelief. After everything she's done, she's a convicted forger. She tried to have you executed. How could I possibly? That's your problem to solve, I interrupted. Not mine. I've spent my entire life being obedient, being accommodating, being the daughter who never causes trouble. And what did it get me? A death sentence. I shook my head. I'm done. From now on, I make my own choices. And my first choice is to walk away from this family and everything it stands for. I turned toward the doors. I had no plan. No destination. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this hall another moment. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. Su-jin. My mother's voice was desperate. Where are you going? You can't just leave. Watch me, I said, and I pushed open the doors. The hallway was empty. The servants had fled at the first sign of trouble. I walked through the silent corridors of the Lin Manor, past the gardens where Yu Ting and I had played as children, past the courtyard where she had wept so convincingly over my betrayal. I made it to the main gate before I heard the voice behind me. Lady Su-jin. I froze. I knew that voice. Deep, commanding, utterly unforgettable. I turned slowly. General Wei Chung stood in the courtyard, his armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. He was even more imposing up close, broad-shouldered and stern-faced, with eyes that seemed to see straight through you. He was flanked by two of his personal guards. I braced myself for his accusation, his disgust, his cold dismissal. I had seen it all before. Instead, he bowed. Deeply. Formally. Forgive me, he said, his voice rough. I have been a fool. I stared at him, completely speechless. This was not the Wei Cheng I remembered. This was someone else entirely. I heard what happened in the ancestral hall, he continued, rising from his bow. I heard what Yu Ting confessed. I heard everything. He took a step closer, his eyes searching my face. I should have trusted you. I should have known better. Instead, I let myself be manipulated by false words and forged documents. I am ashamed of myself. I still couldn't speak. This was not how it had happened before. In my past life, he had never apologized. He had never even looked at me with anything other than contempt. Lady Su-jin, he said, his voice dropping low. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I need you to understand that I never wanted you to suffer. I was a fool, and I am deeply sorry. If there is anything I can do to make amends, you can stay away from me, I said, my voice finally finding itself. You can leave me alone. You can let me live my life without your interference. He flinched as if I had struck him. I deserve that, he said quietly. I know I do. But I am also a man of my word. The betrothal still stands, if you'll have me. If you'll give me a chance to prove that I am worthy of your trust. The betrothal is over, I said flatly. I told my father. I'm done being a pawn in everyone's games. If you want to marry into the Lin family, marry Yuting. She's the one who schemed for it. A strange expression crossed his face. Something between surprise and amusement. Marry Yuting, he shook his head. I would sooner marry a viper. She betrayed her own sister. She forged documents. She lied to the magistrate. I could never trust a woman like that. Never. Then you'll find someone else, I said. I wish you well, General. But I'm done. I turned and walked through the gate. I expected him to call after me. To argue, to plead, to insist. But he said nothing. I walked out of the Lin Manor and into the busy streets of the city, surrounded by merchants and laborers and street vendors, all of them oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded behind those walls. I had no money, no plan, no destination. All I had was my life, my freedom, and the knowledge that Yuting's allies were still out there, waiting for their chance to strike. But as I walked through the crowded streets, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A spark of hope. A flicker of determination. I had been given a second chance, and I was determined to make the most of it. I just had to figure out how. The streets of the capital were a blur of color and noise. Merchants hawked their wares from wooden stalls, their voices rising in a cacophony of competing offers. Children darted between the legs of adults, laughing and shrieking. The smell of frying oil and fresh bread mingled with the less pleasant odors of horse manure and unwashed bodies. I walked without direction, my mind churning. The sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. I had been walking for hours. My feet ached. My stomach growled. And I had no idea where I was going. I paused at a street vendor selling steamed buns. The aroma made my mouth water. I reached into my sleeve, hoping against hope that I had forgotten some coin there. Nothing. My fingers closed around empty fabric. Miss, the vendor, an elderly woman with kind eyes, peered at me. Are you all right? You look pale. I'm fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just lost in thought. She studied me for a moment, then reached into her basket and pressed a warm bun into my hands. Eat, she said firmly. You look like you haven't eaten in days. I opened my mouth to protest, but my stomach chose that moment to growl loudly. I accepted the bun with a muttered thank you and took a bite. The warm, savory filling was the most delicious thing I had ever tasted. You're Lady Su Jin, aren't you? The vendor's voice was soft, almost conspiratorial. The one who was accused of stealing. I froze, the bun halfway to my mouth. How do you know that? News travels fast in this city, she said with a shrug. And there's been quite a bit of it today. First, the heirlooms found in your room. Then, your sister's confession. And now, you walking through the streets like a ghost. She shook her head. The whole city is talking about it. Of course they were. The Lin family was one of the most prominent in the capital. A scandal like this would be the talk of the tea houses for weeks. The magistrate hasn't officially cleared my name yet, I said cautiously. There's still going to be an investigation. Oh, don't worry about that, the vendor said with a knowing smile. I've heard things. The magistrate's clerk is a regular customer of mine. He says the evidence against your sister is airtight. The forged letters, the jeweler's receipt, the servants who confessed to being bribed. She's finished, mark my words. I felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by a wave of exhaustion. The adrenaline that had carried me through the ancestral hall was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness. I had been running on pure fury for hours, and now that the immediate danger had passed, my body was reminding me that I was still human. You should find somewhere to rest, the vendor said gently. There's a inn 2 streets over, the Red Lantern. The owner is a friend of mine. Tell her old May sent you, and she'll give you a room for the night." "Thank you," I said, genuinely moved by her kindness. "I don't know how to repay you." "Just survive," she said simply. "That's enough." I made my way to the Red Lantern, a modest establishment with a faded sign and a welcoming glow spilling from its windows. The innkeeper, a sturdy woman with calloused hands and a no-nonsense expression, took one look at me and nodded. "Old May's friend," she asked. Come in, come in. You look like you need a hot meal and a soft bed." I followed her inside, too tired to argue. The common room was quiet, with only a few patrons nursing cups of tea near the hearth. The innkeeper led me to a small room at the back of the building. It was sparse but clean, with a narrow bed, a wash basin, and a single window overlooking the courtyard. "There's water in the basin if you want to clean up," she said. "I'll bring you some soup and bread. Eat, sleep, and we'll talk about payment in the morning." "Thank you," I said again, and I meant it more than I had ever meant anything in my life. She left me alone, and I collapsed onto the bed, staring up at the wooden ceiling. My body ached. My heart felt like it had been shredded and poorly stitched back together. I had survived. I was free. But the future stretched out before me like an endless, empty road. I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I knew, someone was knocking on my door. I sat up, disoriented, the room dark except for the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the window. "Lady Sujin," a man's voice, low and urgent. "Please, open the door. It's urgent." I rose slowly, my hand reaching for a candlestick on the bedside table. It was the only weapon within reach. "Who are you?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm a messenger from the Lin household," the voice said. "Your mother sent me. She said to tell you that Yuting has escaped." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What, she escaped from the holding room?" the messenger continued, his voice shaking. "We don't know how. She must have had help from someone on the inside. Your father has sent men to search for her, but she's disappeared. Your mother is terrified. She begs you to come home." I stood frozen, the candlestick clutched in my trembling hand. Yuting had escaped. Of course she had. She had told me she had allies. She had warned me that this wasn't over. And now she was out there, somewhere in the city, undoubtedly plotting her revenge. "Tell my mother I can't come home," I said finally. "Tell her I'll be fine. Tell her to stay safe and not to worry about me." "Lady Sujin, please," I said. "I'll be fine." My voice cracked. "Now go. Before someone sees you here." The footsteps retreated, and I was alone again. I sank back onto the bed, my heart pounding. Yating was loose. She would come for me. She had nothing left to lose, and that made her more dangerous than ever. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of the room, the candlestick in my hand, my eyes fixed on the door. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside made me flinch. But no one came. Dawn broke gray and cold, and I finally allowed myself to relax. The innkeeper brought me breakfast, and I ate mechanically, my mind still churning. I needed a plan. I needed allies. I needed to find a way to protect myself from Yuting's inevitable retaliation. I left the Red Lantern just as the city was waking up. The streets were quieter now, the vendors just beginning to set up their stalls. I walked toward the market, hoping to find some work, some way to earn a few coins. I was halfway there when I heard the sound of galloping hooves. I turned, my heart leaping into my throat, and saw a rider approaching at full speed. He wore the colors of the Lin household. "My father's personal guard. Lady Sujin," he called out, pulling his horse to a stop in front of me. "Thank the heavens I found you. You must come home immediately." "What now?" I asked, my voice flat. "Has Yuting been found?" "No, my lady. It's worse." The guard's face was pale. "The magistrate has just issued a warrant for your arrest." I stared at him, certain I had misheard. "For my arrest?" But Yuting confessed. "The evidence was clear." "The evidence has been stolen," the guard said grimly. "The letter, the receipt, the jeweler's testimony. All of it. Someone broke into the magistrate's office last night and destroyed everything. Without the evidence, the magistrate has no choice but to pursue the original charges. You're the one who was caught with the heirlooms. You're the one who ran away. They're calling it a confession by flight." My world tilted. I grabbed onto the guard's horse to steady myself. Who did this? I demanded. Was it Yiting? We don't know, the guard said. But there are rumors. Whispers that someone in the Wei household helped her. Someone with access to the magistrate's office. Wei Cheng. The name burned in my mind. He had apologized to me. He had begged for my forgiveness. And now one of his people was helping my sister destroy me. This is a trap, I said, my voice shaking. Yiting wants me arrested. She wants me executed. She wants to finish what she started. That may be, the guard said. But the warrant has been issued. The city guards are looking for you. You need to come with me. We can hide you in the family compound until we sort this out. No. I stepped back. If I go home, I'll be putting everyone at risk. They'll search the manor. They'll find me. And then they'll have all the excuse they need to convict me. Then what do you plan to do? I thought about it. The heirlooms. The forged letter. The stolen evidence. Yiting had been one step ahead of me from the beginning. But there was one thing she hadn't counted on. I had seen this future. I had lived it. And I knew exactly where she would go next. The jeweler, I said slowly. The one who made the box. He must have copies of the receipt. He must have records. If I can get to him before Yiting does, I can rebuild the case. You're planning to find the jeweler yourself. The guard's eyes widened. My lady, that's dangerous. Yiting will be watching for you. I know. I met his eyes. But I have no choice. This is my only chance. I either fight or I die. And I have no intention of dying again. The guard hesitated, then reached into his satchel and pulled out a small pouch. Here. It's not much, but it's something. Supplies, coins, a dagger for protection. Your mother sent it. She knew you wouldn't come back. I took the pouch, my throat tight. Tell her I love her. And tell her I'll come back. I promise. The guard nodded and rode off, disappearing into the morning crowd. I stood in the middle of the street, the pouch clutched to my chest, feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. The jeweler's shop was on the other side of the city. I would have to walk through the busiest parts of the capital, past the city guards who were undoubtedly looking for me. But I had no other choice. I tucked the pouch into my sleeve, pulled up my hood, and started walking. The streets were crowded, which was both a blessing and a curse. It made it easier to blend in, but it also meant there were more eyes to spot me. I kept my head down, my pace brisk, trying to look like just another servant running errands. I was halfway to the jeweler's shop when I felt a hand on my arm. I spun around, my hand going to the dagger in my sleeve. Easy, a voice murmured. I'm not here to hurt you. It was a woman, young and pretty, dressed in the plain robes of a servant. But her eyes were sharp, watchful. She had the look of someone who saw everything and trusted no one. Who are you? I demanded. A friend, she said. Or at least, someone who wants to be a friend. My name is Lian. I work for General Wei. I tried to pull away, but her grip was surprisingly strong. If you work for him, then you're no friend of mine. Wait, she said urgently. Please. The general had nothing to do with the stolen evidence. That was Yiting's doing, working with someone in the magistrate's office. The general is furious. He's been looking for you since last night. He wants to help. Help, I laughed bitterly. He's had ample opportunity to help. He never did. He didn't know before, Lian said. He was deceived, just like everyone else. But now he knows. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I studied her face. She looked sincere, but I had been fooled before. Why should I trust you? Because I have this. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small object. My mother's jade hairpin. The one Yiting had planted in my room. The general found it in the magistrate's evidence room before it was destroyed. He saved it. He wanted you to have it. I took the hairpin, my fingers trembling. The smooth jade was warm from her touch. It was real. It was proof that the evidence had existed. Tell the general thank you, I said slowly. But I can't accept his help. I need to do this on my own. Lady Su Jin, I said no. My voice was sharper than I intended. Lian flinched, but I didn't apologize. I've spent my entire life being helped by people who had their own agendas. I can't do that anymore. I need to fight my own battles. Lian studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I understand. But if you change your mind, The general will be waiting." She slipped away into the crowd, leaving me alone with the hairpin in my hand. I tucked it into my sleeve and continued walking, my mind racing. I reached the jeweler's shop just as the sun was reaching its zenith. It was a small establishment, tucked between a tea house and a silk merchant. The sign above the door read, "Chen's Fine Jewelry." I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The shop was empty. The counters were bare. And in the back, I could see the jeweler, an elderly man with trembling hands, packing his belongings into a wooden crate. "Master Chen," I said, my voice echoing in the quiet shop. "I need to speak with you." He turned, his face going pale. "You're Lady Su Jin," he whispered. "You're the one they're looking for." "Yes," I admitted. "But I'm also the one who needs your help. I need copies of the receipt you gave Yuting. The one for the box with the hidden compartment. I know you keep records of all your commissions." Master Chen shook his head, his hands still trembling. "I can't help you, my lady. Your sister's people came by this morning. They made it very clear what would happen if I cooperated with you." "Then you've already given them the copies?" "No." He shook his head. "I destroyed them. All of them. The originals, the copies, the records. I burned everything." I felt my heart sink. "Why would you do that?" "Because they threatened my family." He was nearly sobbing now. "My wife, my grandchildren. They said they would kill them all if I didn't destroy the evidence. I had no choice." I closed my eyes, fighting back the wave of despair. Yuting had been thorough. She had covered every angle. She was determined to destroy me, no matter what it cost. "Is there anything left?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Anything at all," Master Chen hesitated. Then he reached into his robe and pulled out a small piece of parchment. "I kept this," he said softly. "It's not the receipt. It's the original order form. The one with Yuting's handwriting and her seal. It's not as strong as the receipt, but it might be enough to raise doubts." I took the parchment, my hands trembling. It was smudged and crumpled, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Yuting's looping script. Her personal seal. It was enough. It had to be enough. "Thank you," I said, tucking it into my sleeve. "You've saved my life." I turned to leave, but Master Chen's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Wait," he said, his voice urgent. "There's something else. Something you need to know." "What is it?" "Your sister isn't just working alone," he said. "She's allied with someone powerful. Someone with connections to the palace. I overheard her talking to her contact when she came to pick up the box. She mentioned a name." "Whose name?" Master Chen leaned close, his voice barely a whisper. "The Empress Dowager's personal attendant. Lady Lu." I felt the blood drain from my face. The Empress Dowager. The most powerful woman in the empire. If Yuting had connections to her, then this was much bigger than just a family scandal. This was a political conspiracy. "Lady Lu," I repeated. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Master Chen said. "I would never forget that name. She's been in the shop before. She's a regular customer." I thanked him again and left the shop, my mind reeling. Yuting had connections to the Empress Dowager. That explained how the evidence had been stolen so quickly. That explained how she had escaped from the holding room. She had powerful allies. And if I wasn't careful, those allies would destroy me. I walked through the streets, the parchment clutched in my hand, trying to think. I needed to find a way to expose Yuting and her conspiracy. But how could I fight someone with connections to the palace? It was then that I saw the carriage. It was grand, painted in the colors of the imperial household, drawn by 4 matching white horses. It was pulling up to a tea house on the corner, and a servant was helping a lady step down. The lady was tall and elegant, her face concealed by a veil. But I recognized her movements. I had seen them before in my past life, at court functions, at banquets. It was Lady Lu. I ducked into a nearby alleyway, my heart pounding. Lady Lu was here, in the middle of the city, meeting with someone. I crept closer, keeping to the shadows, and watched. Lady Lu entered the tea house, and a few moments later a second carriage pulled up. This one was smaller, plainer, but I recognized the driver. He worked for the magistrate's office. I watched as a man stepped out of the carriage. He was young, well-dressed, with an air of self-importance. He walked into the tea house without looking back. I didn't need to see his face. I knew who he was. He was the magistrate's personal clerk. The one who had been in charge of the evidence against me. This was the conspiracy, unfolding right in front of me. Lady Lu, the magistrate's clerk, and probably a Ting somewhere in the shadows. They were meeting to plan the next step of their scheme. I knew what I had to do. I needed to get inside that tea house. I needed to hear what they were saying. And I needed to find a way to expose them all. But first, I needed a disguise. I scanned the alleyway and spotted a laundry line, hung with freshly washed robes. I grabbed one and pulled it on over my own clothing. It was too big, but it would do. I also found a battered hat and pulled it low over my face. I walked out of the alley and toward the tea house, trying to look like a servant on an errand. The door was unguarded. I slipped inside. The common room was crowded with patrons, but I could see the private room in the back. A curtain hung across the entrance, and I could hear voices from behind it. I crept closer, straining to hear. The girl needs to be dealt with quickly, a female voice was saying. Lady Lu's voice. She's too unpredictable. She's already caused us enough trouble. She's resourceful, another voice added. The clerk. She found the jeweler. She has the original order form. If she presents it to the right people, she could unravel everything. Then we make sure she doesn't present it, Lady Lu said coldly. Send word to the city guards. Tell them she's to be arrested on sight. And if she resists. She paused. Well, accidents happen, don't they? I felt a chill run down my spine. They were going to kill me. They had decided that the only way to protect their conspiracy was to eliminate me permanently. I turned to leave, but my foot caught on the edge of the carpet. I stumbled, and the curtain swished open. I found myself staring directly into Lady Lu's eyes. Well, she said, a cold smile spreading across her face. It seems we have a listener. The world narrowed to a single point. Lady Lu's cold smile. The clerk's hand darting toward his sleeve. The muffled sounds of the tea house patrons going about their business, blissfully unaware of the trap closing around me. I didn't think. I moved. My hand found the dagger in my sleeve, and I hurled it not at Lady Lu, but at the hanging lantern above her head. The oil splashed down, dousing the curtain in flames. The fire caught instantly, spreading across the silk with a hungry roar. Lady Lu screamed. The clerk stumbled backward, his hand now clutching a short blade. I didn't wait to see what he would do. I turned and ran, crashing through the common room, knocking over tables and sending teacups flying. Stop her. Lady Lu shrieked from behind me. She's the fugitive. Seize her. The patrons scrambled out of my way, their faces masks of confusion and fear. I burst through the front door and into the street, my lungs burning. The carriage was still there, the driver gaping at me. I grabbed the reins and yanked, sending the horses rearing. They bolted, and I threw myself aside just as they stampeded past me. The chaos bought me precious seconds. I ran, not looking back, weaving through alleys and side streets until I was certain no one was following. My heart pounded against my ribs. My legs screamed with exhaustion. But I couldn't stop. Not yet. I found myself at the edge of the city, where the grand buildings gave way to ramshackle huts and muddy lanes. This was the poorest part of the capital, the place where people went to disappear. I ducked into a narrow alley and collapsed against a wall, gasping for breath. The parchment with Yu Ting's handwriting was still tucked into my sleeve. It was all I had left. You're not very good at hiding. I spun around, the dagger already in my hand. A man stood at the entrance to the alley, leaning against the wall with an air of casual amusement. He was tall and lean, with sharp eyes and a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. His clothes were plain, but the way he held himself spoke of confidence. Danger. Who are you? I demanded, my voice shaking despite my efforts to control it. Someone who's been watching you since you left the jeweler shop, he said. You're not exactly subtle, Lady Su Jin. Walking through the city with a hood pulled low, looking over your shoulder every few steps. You might as well have a sign on your back. Are you here to arrest me? He laughed, a short, sharp sound. If I were here to arrest you, you'd already be in chains. He pushed off from the wall and walked toward me, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. I'm here to help. I've heard that before. I'm sure you have. He stopped a few feet away, studying me with those sharp eyes. But I'm not like the others. I don't work for your sister. I don't work for the magistrate. I don't work for anyone except myself. Then why are you helping me? Because I owe a debt. His expression flickered, something dark passing behind his eyes. A debt to someone who saved my life a long time ago. That person told me that if I ever saw you in trouble, I was to do whatever I could to help. My name is Zhang Wei, he said. But that's not important. What's important is that your sister isn't just trying to destroy you. She's part of something bigger. Something that goes all the way to the palace. I know, I said. Lady Lu. He raised an eyebrow. You know about Lady Lu. I saw her meeting with the magistrate's clerk. I heard them talking. They want to kill me. Well, that's not surprising. Zhang Wei leaned against the wall again, crossing his arms. You've become a liability. The evidence you have, even if it's just a fragment, could unravel their entire scheme. They can't afford to let you live. Then I'm doomed. Not necessarily. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch. I have friends in low places. Friends who owe me favors. Friends who can get you out of the city to a place where no one will find you. I stared at the pouch. And what would you want in return? Nothing, he said simply. Like I said, I owe a debt. Consider this payment. I hesitated. Every instinct I had screamed at me not to trust him. But what choice did I have? I was alone, hunted, and out of options. If I stayed in the city, I would be caught. Or killed. And then Yiting would win. Where would I go? I asked finally. There's a village to the south, about 3 days' journey. It's small, out of the way. No one will look for you there. He tossed me the pouch. There's enough coin in there to get you started. Food, shelter, a change of clothes. You'll have to travel at night, stay off the main roads. But if you're careful, you'll make it. I caught the pouch, feeling the weight of the coins inside. And what about the evidence? What about exposing Yiting and Lady Lu? That's a battle for another day, Zhang Wei said. Right now, you need to survive. You can't fight them if you're dead. I opened my mouth to argue, but he held up a hand. I know what you're thinking. You want revenge. You want justice. And you'll have it, eventually. But not today. Today, you need to live. I closed my eyes, fighting back the frustration. He was right. I couldn't do anything if I was dead. But walking away, leaving Yiting free to continue her schemes, felt like surrender. Fine, I said finally. I'll go. Zhang Wei nodded. Good. There's a stable at the end of this alley. Take the gray mare. She's fast and sure-footed. Stay off the roads, keep to the forests, and don't stop until you reach the village. Ask for a woman named Olchen. Tell her I sent you. I started to thank him, but when I opened my eyes, he was gone. The alley was empty, save for the sound of distant street vendors and the rustle of wind through the garbage scattered on the ground. I found the stable, just as he had said. The gray mare was waiting, saddled and ready. I mounted her, my hands trembling, and guided her out of the city through a back gate I didn't know existed. The guards were too busy dealing with the chaos at the tea house to notice a single rider slipping into the night. The road south was dark and quiet. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the only light came from the faint glow of distant villages. I rode through the night, my body aching, my mind churning. I thought about Yiting. About Lady Lu. About the magistrate's clerk. They were all part of something bigger, something that reached into the highest levels of power. And I was just one woman, alone and hunted, with nothing but a piece of parchment and a handful of coins. But I wasn't defeated. Not yet. I had survived death once. I could survive this. I rode until dawn, then found a thicket of trees to hide in. I slept fitfully, waking at every sound, my hand never straying far from the dagger at my belt. When the sun was high, I ate a small meal from the supplies Zhang Wei had given me and continued on. The second night was harder. The road grew rougher, the forest denser. I heard wolves howling in the distance, and I urged the mare to go faster. My muscles screamed, but I pushed through the pain. I reached the village just as the sun was setting on the third day. It was a small, sleepy place, nestled in a valley between two hills. Smoke curled from chimneys, and the sound of laughter drifted from a tavern near the center of town. I found old Chen's house at the edge of the village. It was a modest cottage with a thatched roof and a small garden in front. An old woman was sitting on the porch, shelling peas into a wooden bowl. You must be the one Zhang Wei sent, she said without looking up. I've been expecting you. I dismounted, my legs nearly giving out beneath me. How did you know a Zhang Wei sent word ahead, she said. Come inside. You look like you haven't eaten in days. I followed her into the cottage. It was warm and cozy, filled with the scent of herbs and wood smoke. She gestured to a chair by the fire, and I collapsed into it, too exhausted to speak. Old Chin brought me a bowl of stew and a cup of tea. I ate in silence, the warmth spreading through my aching body. When I was finished, she sat down across from me, her sharp eyes studying my face. You're in a lot of trouble, she said. I can see it in your eyes. Yes, I admitted. I am. Your sister is a cunning one. I've heard stories about her, even out here in the middle of nowhere. Old Chin shook her head. But she's not the one you need to worry about. It's Lady Lu. She has connections everywhere. She'll find you eventually, no matter how far you run. Then what should I do? Old Chin was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn object. A jade pendant, carved in the shape of a phoenix. I was young once, she said softly. And I worked in the palace. I was a servant to the Empress Dowager herself. I saw things. Heard things. She pressed the pendant into my hand. This belonged to the Empress Dowager's sister. The one who died under mysterious circumstances. The one Lady Lu was suspected of poisoning. I stared at the pendant, my mind racing. Lady Lu murdered the Empress Dowager's sister. I can't prove it, Old Chin said. But I know it. And I know why she did it. The sister was about to expose a conspiracy. A conspiracy that involved the Empress Dowager's closest advisors. Lady Lu couldn't let that happen. This is what Yating is involved in, I said slowly. This conspiracy. Lady Lu is using her to get rid of me because I'm a threat. Exactly. Old Chin leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. But the pendant is proof. It's proof that Lady Lu was involved in the sister's death. If you can get it to the right person, you can bring her down. The right person, I repeated. Who? The Emperor, Old Chin said. He's the only one with enough power to stop her. But you'll need to get to him without being intercepted. That's the hard part. I looked down at the pendant in my hand. It was old, the jade worn smooth by time. But it felt heavy, weighted with the lives it had cost. Lady Lu is on her way here, I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. She knows I'm heading south. She'll have people watching the roads. Old Chin nodded. Then you need to leave now. Tonight. Take the pendant and go to the capital. Find a way to get to the Emperor. It's your only chance. What about you? I asked. If Lady Lu finds out you helped me, I'm an old woman, she said with a shrug. I've lived my life. Don't worry about me. I wanted to argue, but I knew there was no time. I tucked the pendant into my sleeve and stood up. Thank you, I said. I won't forget this. Just survive, Old Chin said. That's all the thanks I need. I left the cottage and mounted the gray mare. The night was dark, but I knew the road. I had traveled it once before, in my past life, on the way to my execution. I would not make that journey again. I rode hard, pushing the mare faster than I should have. The wind whipped my face and the trees blurred past me. I was heading back to the capital, back into the heart of the danger. I was halfway there when I heard the sound of hoofbeats behind me. Many hoofbeats. I looked back and saw torches flickering in the distance. Riders. A lot of them. They had found me. I urged the mare to go faster, but she was already spent. The riders were gaining. I could hear their shouts, the thunder of their horses. I veered off the main road, crashing through the underbrush. Branches whipped at my face, and I could feel the sting of cuts on my skin. The mare stumbled, and I nearly fell. There right ahead, a voice shouted. Don't let her escape. I was going to be caught. I was going to be killed. And then Yating would win. But then I saw it. A narrow path, barely visible through the trees. I took it, guiding the mare down a steep slope, and emerged onto a rocky ledge overlooking a river. The riders were right behind me. I had nowhere to go. The river was too wide to cross, and the ledge was too narrow to turn around. I dismounted, my hand on the dagger at my belt. If I was going to die, I would die fighting. The riders emerged from the trees, their torches illuminating the night. There were at least a dozen of them, all armed, all wearing the colors of the magistrate's guard. But at their head was a figure I recognized. Tall, broad-shouldered, armored. Wei Cheng. He dismounted and walked toward me, his face grim. Lady Su Jin, he said. I'm not here to hurt you. Then why are you here? I demanded. To arrest me. No. He stopped a few feet away, his hands raised. I'm here to help you. Lady Lu has sent her own people after you. They're not far behind. If they catch you, they won't just arrest you. They'll kill you. Then why should I trust you? Because I've been a fool, he said, his voice rough. Because I believed your sister's lies and I let you suffer. Because I'm trying to make it right. He took another step closer. I know about the conspiracy. I know about Lady Lu. I know about the pendant. I froze. How do you know about that? Old Chen sent word to me, he said. She said you were coming. She said you needed help. I've been riding all night to find you. So you can steal the pendant? No. He shook his head. So I can help you get to the Emperor. So I can help you expose Lady Lu and your sister and everyone else who's been scheming against you. I stared at him, trying to see the lie in his eyes. But there was none. Only determination. Only regret. Please, he said. Trust me, just this once. I know I don't deserve it. But if you let me help, I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I looked at the pendant in my hand. Then I looked at the riders behind him. They were waiting, their torches flickering, their faces grim. I'm going to die if I trust you, I said slowly. And I'm going to die if I don't. So I might as well take the risk. I walked toward him, the pendant clutched in my hand. He reached out, his fingers brushing mine as he took it from me. I'll get you to the palace, he said. I'll get you to the Emperor. And then we'll end this. Together. I didn't answer. I just nodded, too exhausted to speak. He helped me mount his horse, then climbed up behind me, his arms wrapping around me to hold the reins. Hold on, he said, and he urged the horse forward. We rode through the night, the torches of Lady Lu's people flickering in the distance. But they were too far behind. We had a head start. We reached the capital just as dawn was breaking. The gates were open, the guards barely stirring. Wei Cheng guided the horse through the streets, past the markets and the temples, toward the sprawling complex of the palace. Are you sure the Emperor will see us? I asked, my voice hoarse. He'll see me, Wei Cheng said. I'm a general. I have access to the inner court. But it won't be easy. Lady Lu has eyes everywhere. We reached the palace gates, and Wei Cheng dismounted. He helped me down, his hand steady on my arm. I was shaking, my body pushed to its limits. Stay close to me, he said. Don't say a word unless I tell you. And don't let anyone see the pendant. We walked through the palace gates, past the guards who bowed to Wei Cheng. The corridors were silent, the walls lined with silk tapestries and golden lamps. We passed through courtyards and gardens, my heart pounding with every step. Finally, we reached a large, ornate door. Wei Cheng pushed it open, and we stepped inside. The throne room was empty. The Emperor was not there. But a figure stood by the window, her back to us. Lady Lu. She turned, her cold smile spreading across her face. General Wei, she said. I was wondering when you'd show up. And you've brought the fugitive with you. How thoughtful. I felt Wei Cheng tense beside me. We're here to see the Emperor, he said. Where is he? The Emperor is indisposed, Lady Lu said smoothly. But I'm sure I can handle whatever you have to say. We have evidence, I said, my voice shaking but steady. Evidence that you murdered the Empress Dowager's sister. Evidence that you conspired with my sister to frame me. Evidence that you've been plotting against the throne. Lady Lu's smile didn't waver. You have evidence? How interesting. And yet, I'm afraid it won't matter. She clapped her hands, and the doors behind us slammed open. Guards poured in, their weapons drawn. Seize them, Lady Lu said. And take the pendant. Don't let it out of your sight. The guards advanced. Wei Cheng drew his sword, standing in front of me. Run, he shouted. I'll hold them off. I ran, the pendant still clutched in my hand. I burst through a side door, into a narrow corridor. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. I heard footsteps behind me. I ducked into a room, slamming the door shut, and pressed my back against the wall. I was trapped. The room I had stumbled into was small and dimly lit, filled with racks of embroidered robes and shelves stacked with ornate boxes. A dressing chamber, perhaps, or a storage room for the palace's endless supply of ceremonial garments. The door behind me rattled as someone tried to force it open. I pressed my weight against it, my heart slamming against my ribs. Open this door, a voice shouted from the other side. In the name of the Empress Dowager, open it now. I looked around frantically, searching for another way out. There was a window, high and narrow, but I would never fit through it. A wardrobe, too small to hide in. A chest, locked tight. The door shuddered under the weight of a heavy blow. They were going to break it down. I had seconds, maybe less. I did the only thing I could think of. I reached up and pulled down one of the heavy silk robes from its rack, using it to cover myself as I dove behind a tall screen in the corner of the room. It was a pathetic hiding place. They would find me within moments. But then I heard something that made me freeze. A soft voice from the other side of the screen. You're not very good at hiding. I spun around, ready to fight, but the figure that stepped out from behind the screen was not a guard. It was a young woman, no older than me, dressed in the plain robes of a palace servant. Her face was familiar in a way I couldn't quite place. Who are you? I whispered. My name is May, she said, her voice calm and steady. I work in the Empress Dowager's private chambers. And I've been waiting for you. I stared at her, my mind reeling. Waiting for me? Old Chen sent word, she said. She told me you were coming. She said you had the pendant. She said you needed to get to the Emperor. The door shuddered again, and a crack appeared in the wood. There's no time, May said urgently. Give me the pendant. I can get it to the Emperor. But you have to trust me. I hesitated. The pendant was my only leverage, my only proof of Lady Lu's crimes. If I gave it up, I would have nothing. You have to trust me, May repeated. I know what Lady Lu did to the Empress Dowager's sister. I was there. I saw it happen. The door splintered, and a guard's arm reached through the gap, fumbling for the latch. Take it, I said, pressing the pendant into her hand. Get it to the Emperor. Please. She nodded and slipped away, disappearing through a hidden door I hadn't noticed. I turned back to the main door just as it burst open, the guards pouring into the room. Search everywhere, the leader shouted. She can't have gotten far. I stepped out from behind the screen, my hands raised. I'm right here. The guards lunged for me, grabbing my arms and pinning them behind my back. I didn't struggle. There was no point. I had done what I needed to do. The pendant was on its way to the Emperor. Now all I had to do was survive long enough for it to reach him. They dragged me through the corridors, past the curious stares of palace servants, all the way to a small, windowless room in the basement of the palace. It was damp and cold, with a single stool and a rusted iron ring bolted to the floor. Sit, the guard leader said, shoving me onto the stool. Lady Lu will be here shortly. She's very eager to speak with you. He left, slamming the heavy door behind him. I heard the click of a lock, and then silence. I sat in the darkness, my hands clasped in my lap, trying to calm my racing heart. I had given May the pendant. She was on her way to the Emperor. But would she make it? Lady Lu had eyes everywhere. If she was intercepted, if the pendant was taken from her, everything I had done would be for nothing. Minutes passed. Or hours. I had no way of measuring time in the darkness. My body ached. My throat was dry. But I refused to give in to despair. The door opened, and a servant entered carrying a lamp. She set it on the floor, then stepped back. A moment later, Lady Lu swept into the room, her robes rustling against the stone floor. Lady Su-jin, she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. What a pleasure to finally meet you properly. I've heard so much about you from your sister. Yating is not my sister, I said flatly. She's a viper who happened to share a household with me. Lady Lu laughed, a cold, brittle sound. Oh, I do like you. You have spirit. It's a shame we're on opposite sides of this little conflict. She circled me, her eyes assessing. You know, you almost succeeded. You were clever, getting that pendant. You were clever, finding the jeweler. You were clever, escaping the city. But cleverness isn't enough, I'm afraid. Not when you're up against someone like me. What are you going to do? I asked. Kill me eventually, she said calmly. But first, I want to know who else is involved. Who helped you? Who is working against me? I met her eyes and said nothing. Your silence won't protect them, Lady Lu continued. I have the resources to find out everything I need to know. But I'm offering you a choice. Tell me who helped you, and I'll make your death quick. Quiet. You won't suffer. Refuse, and I'll make you wish you had never been born. I thought about Old Qin. About Zhang Wei. About Mei. About Wei Qing, who was probably fighting for his life somewhere in the palace. I thought about my mother, who had cried for me. My father, who had finally seen the truth. I have nothing to tell you, I said. Lady Lu's smile faltered. You're making a mistake. No, I said. I'm making a choice. The same choice I've been making since I woke up in the ancestral hall. To fight. To survive. To never let anyone else control my fate. She stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. Very well. If you won't cooperate, you leave me no choice. She clapped her hands, and the guard leader stepped into the room. He was holding a length of rope. My stomach churned. The magistrate's guards are on their way, Lady Lu said. You'll be taken to the city jail, officially charged with theft, and executed at dawn. Your sister will be there to watch. She's been looking forward to it. She turned to leave, but I called out after her. Lady Lu. The pendant. It's already with the Emperor. She froze, her back still to me. What? I gave it to someone. A servant. She's on her way to the Emperor right now. I smiled despite my fear. You've lost. You just don't know it yet. Lady Lu turned slowly, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. You're lying. Am I said. You'll find out soon enough. She was silent for a long moment. Then she gestured to the guard. I'll send the message myself. The execution will happen tonight. Not at dawn. Tonight. As she left, I felt a wave of despair wash over me. I had given Mei the pendant. I had done everything I could. But Lady Lu was right. Cleverness wasn't enough. Not when you were up against someone like her. The guard left too, and I was alone in the darkness once again. I slumped against the wall, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. I had fought so hard. I had come so far. And now it was all coming to an end. But then I heard it. A faint scratching sound. Coming from the wall behind me. I pressed my ear against the cold stone. The scratching continued, followed by a muffled voice. Lady Su Jin, are you there? It was a woman's voice. Familiar, but I couldn't place it. Who is it? I whispered. It's Lien. General Wei's servant. The scratching stopped. I've come to get you out. But you have to be very quiet. I heard a grinding sound, and then a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a narrow passage. Lien's face appeared in the gap, her eyes bright in the darkness. Quickly, she hissed. There's no time. I didn't hesitate. I scrambled through the opening, and Lien pulled the wall shut behind me. We were in a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough to walk through. Where does this go? I asked. It leads to the inner court, Lien said. The Emperor's private chambers. The general is waiting there. The general, is he all right? He's alive, Lien said grimly. He was badly outnumbered, but he managed to escape. He's been trying to find you ever since. She paused. He cares about you, you know. More than he'll admit. I didn't respond. I didn't have time to think about Wei Chang's feelings. All I cared about was surviving long enough to see Lady Lu fall. We made our way through the tunnel, which was dark and claustrophobic. The walls were rough-hewn stone, and the air was thick with dust. I stumbled a few times, but Lien caught my arm and steadied me. Almost there, she whispered. We reached a ladder, and Lien climbed up first. She pushed open a trapdoor, and I followed her into a small, dimly lit chamber. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to the light. Wei Cheng was there. His armor was dented and covered in blood, but he was standing tall, his sword still in his hand. When he saw me, something in his eyes shifted. Relief, maybe? Or something deeper. You're alive, he said, his voice rough. I'm alive, I confirmed. Thanks to Lien. He nodded to her. Thank you for this. My duty, General, Lien said, bowing. Is the Emperor here? I asked urgently. I gave the pendant to a servant named Mei. She was supposed to bring it to him. Wei Cheng's face went still. Mei, She's the Empress Dowager's personal servant. She would never betray Lady Lu. I felt my blood run cold. What Lady Lu has trusted me for years, he said. She's one of her most loyal allies. I had been tricked. I had given the pendant to Lady Lu's own servant. And now the pendant was back in her hands. She didn't bring it to the Emperor, I said slowly. She brought it to Lady Lu. Wei Cheng's joy tightened. It seems we've been outmaneuvered. Not yet, I said, a new resolve settling over me. There's still a way. We just have to find it. I told them about Lady Lu's plan. The execution tonight. The magistrate's guards. The trial that would never happen because I would already be dead. They'll take you through the main gate, Wei Cheng said. Past the palace guards. Past the city watch. There's no way to stop them. There is, Lian said quietly. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small object. A jade seal. The Emperor's personal seal. I stole it last night. We both stared at her in shock. Stealing it wasn't hard, she said. I'm the general's servant. People trust me. They don't question where I go or what I do. What's the point of having the seal, I asked. We can't get to the Emperor. And even if we could, we need proof of Lady Lu's crimes. Then we make our own proof, Lian said. We forge a letter. A confession, signed with the Emperor's seal. We claim Lady Lu confessed to everything. Then we present it to the court. That's dangerous, Wei Cheng said. If the Emperor finds out we've used his seal without permission, we'll be executed. He won't, Lian said. The court will believe the letter. And by the time they realize it's a forgery, Lady Lu will already be in chains. I thought about it. It was risky. But it was our only chance. Let's do it, I said. We moved quickly, Lian finding paper and ink, Wei Cheng dictating the confession. I wrote it in my own hand, careful to match the elegant strokes of the imperial calligraphy. When it was done, Lian pressed the seal into the warm wax. It was perfect. It looked real. Now we need to present it to the court, Wei Cheng said. We need to do it publicly. In front of as many witnesses as possible. Where will we find a crowd at this hour? I asked. The night court, Lian said. It's the evening session. The magistrate himself is presiding. I met Wei Cheng's eyes. Then we go. We moved through the palace corridors, staying in the shadows. The evening session was just beginning in the great hall. The court was packed with nobles and officials, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of hundreds of candles. In the front of the room, Lady Lu stood beside the magistrate. She was smiling. Lady Su Jin has been apprehended, the magistrate was saying. She has been charged with the theft of family heirlooms. She will be executed tonight at midnight. The crowd murmured, a mix of shock and satisfaction. No one noticed me stepping out of the shadows. Stop, I said, my voice clear and strong. There's been a mistake. The magistrate turned, his face a mask of anger. Who dares interrupt these proceedings? I do, I said, stepping fully into the light. I am Lady Su Jin. And I have a letter from the Emperor himself. The crowd went silent. Lady Lu's face paled. Impossible, she hissed. The Emperor is indisposed. That's what you told us earlier, I said. But here's the truth. The Emperor signed this letter. It's his seal. His handwriting. His confession. I held up the letter, and the court gasped. This letter states that Lady Lu murdered the Empress Dowager's sister. It states that she conspired with my sister, Yiting, to frame me for theft. It states that she has been plotting against the throne for years. Lady Lu lunged for the letter, but Wei Cheng stepped in front of her, his sword drawn. You see, I said. She's desperate. She knows she's been caught. The magistrate took the letter, his hands trembling. He studied it, his eyes widening. This is the Emperor's seal, he said. I've seen it before. It's real. No, Lady Lu screamed. It's a forgery. It's a trick. Then explain this, I said, reaching into my sleeve and pulling out another piece of parchment. A letter from your own hand. The order to have me killed. Signed with your seal. I took it from your dressing chamber. You were too busy gloating to notice. Lady Lu stared at the letter, her face contorted with rage. You little, take her away, the magistrate said, his voice shaking. Take her to the dungeons. And send word to the palace. We need to confirm this letter with the Emperor. The guards seized Lady Lu, dragging her away as she screamed curses at me. The crowd erupted into chaos, nobles shouting and pointing, servants scrambling. I stood in the center of it all, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. I had done it. I had exposed her. I had won. But then I heard another voice from the back of the room. Not so fast. I turned, and my stomach dropped. Yating was standing in the doorway, a dagger in her hand. She was wearing a veil, but I recognized her eyes. Full of hatred. Full of madness. You think this is over, she said, stepping forward. You think you've beaten me, Yating, I said slowly. It's over. Please. Just stop. Never, she hissed. You took everything from me. My reputation. My freedom. The man I loved. She raised the dagger. Now I'm going to take everything from you. She lunged. I braced myself, ready to fight. But before she could reach me, someone stepped between us. Wei Cheng. He caught her wrist, twisting it until she dropped the dagger. She screamed, struggling against him. Let me go, she shrieked. Let me go. Guards. Wei Cheng shouted, and they surged forward, surrounding her. Please, I said, stepping closer to her. Yating, I don't want you to die. But you need to stop. You need to let go of all this hatred. She stared at me, her eyes wild. You don't understand, she whispered. You never understood. Then tell me, I said. Tell me what I don't understand. I loved him, she said, her voice breaking. I loved Wei Cheng since the first moment I saw him. I would have done anything for him. But he didn't even notice me. All he ever saw was you. You, with your perfect life, your perfect smile, your perfect future. And I was just invisible. I felt a pang of something close to pity. She was broken. She had been broken for a long time. That's not an excuse, I said softly. But I understand. I understand what it feels like to be overlooked. I understand what it feels like to want something so badly you'd do anything to get it. I shook my head. But that doesn't make it right. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The guards hesitated, looking at me. Take her away, I said. But don't hurt her. She's already hurting enough. They led her out of the room, and I finally allowed myself to breathe. I had won. I had survived. And now, for the first time in my life, I was truly free. Wei Cheng stepped closer to me, his face unreadable. Are you all right? I'm fine, I said. Thank you. For everything. He nodded. I was wrong about you. About everything. I thought you were weak. I thought you were guilty. But you're the strongest person I've ever met. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. The magistrate approached us, bowing deeply. Lady Su Jin. I apologize for my role in this. I was deceived by your sister and Lady Lu. I should have investigated more thoroughly. Yes, I said. You should have. But I'm willing to forgive you. If you promise to do better in the future. He nodded, his face red with shame. I will. I swear it. I walked out of the great hall, into the cool night air. The sky was full of stars, and for the first time in what felt like forever I could breathe. Wei Cheng followed me. What will you do now? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. I haven't thought that far ahead. Then think about this, he said. I know I have no right to ask for anything. But if you'll give me a chance, I'd like to prove that I can be worthy of you. I turned to look at him. He was serious. His eyes were earnest, hopeful. I don't know if I can trust you, I said slowly. Not yet. But maybe with time, he nodded. I'll wait as long as it takes. We stood in silence, the stars shining above us. And for the first time, the future didn't feel so terrifying. I had survived. I had won. And now, whatever came next, I knew I could handle it. The morning sun crept through the narrow window of my chamber, painting golden stripes across the worn wooden floor. I had been awake for hours, my mind too restless to allow sleep. The events of the past days felt like a fever dream. The ancestral hall. The accusation. The escape. The conspiracy. And finally, the confrontation in the Great Hall. Yating was in the dungeons. Lady Lu was in chains. The magistrate had issued a formal apology, and my name had been cleared in the eyes of the law. But the wounds were still fresh, the scars still raw. I rose from the bed and walked to the window. The palace grounds were quiet, the servants going about their morning tasks with quiet efficiency. The emperor had not yet summoned me. I didn't know if he would. The forged letter, the stolen seal, those were crimes that could still be punished, even if they had been used to expose a greater conspiracy. A knock on the door made me turn. Enter. The door opened, and Lien stepped inside, carrying a tray of food. Good morning, my lady. I brought you breakfast. Thank you, Lien. I smiled at her, a genuine warmth filling my chest. I don't know how to repay you for everything you've done. You already have, she said, setting the tray on the table. You survived. That's all the repayment I need. She left, and I sat down to eat. The food was simple but delicious, and I ate with an appetite I hadn't felt in days. When I was finished, I dressed in the clean robes Lien had provided and made my way to the main courtyard. Wei Cheng was there, sparring with one of his guards. His movements were fluid, powerful, his sword flashing in the morning light. When he saw me, he stopped and sheathed his blade. Lady Su Jin, he said, bowing. You're up early. I couldn't sleep, I admitted. Too much on my mind. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. The emperor has summoned us. Both of us. He wants to speak with you about what happened. I felt my stomach drop. Is he angry? I don't know, Wei Cheng said honestly. But he's fair. He'll listen to what you have to say. We walked together through the palace corridors, past the guards who bowed as we passed. The emperor's private chamber was at the end of a long hallway, its doors guarded by 2 imposing soldiers. The doors swung open, and we stepped inside. The emperor was seated on a raised dais, his face unreadable. He was younger than I had expected, his features sharp and intelligent. His eyes swept over us, assessing. General Wei, he said. Lady Su Jin. Thank you for coming. We bowed, and he gestured for us to rise. I've reviewed the evidence, the emperor said, his voice calm and measured. Lady Lu has been formally charged with murder and conspiracy. Your sister has been charged with forgery and attempted murder. They will both face trial. I felt a surge of relief. Thank you, Your Majesty. Don't thank me yet, he said, his eyes narrowing. I also know about the forged letter. The one with my seal. The one you used to expose Lady Lu. My heart stopped. Your Majesty, I know why you did it, he interrupted. And I understand that it was necessary. But it was still a crime. Using the imperial seal without permission is treason. Wei Cheng stepped forward. Your Majesty, if I may, the emperor held up a hand, silencing him. I'm not finished. He turned back to me. Lady Su Jin, you've shown remarkable courage. You've exposed a conspiracy that could have destroyed this empire. You've survived attempts on your life, and you've done it all without the protection of your family or the support of the court. That takes a strength that few possess. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, waiting. I'm not going to punish you, the emperor said finally. Instead, I'm going to reward you. I'm offering you a position at court. As my personal advisor. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. Your Majesty, you have a sharp mind, he said. You understand politics. You understand people. And you have the courage to speak the truth, even when it's dangerous. Those are qualities I value. He paused. Of course, the position comes with risks. There will always be people like Lady Lu, people who want to use the court for their own purposes. But I believe you can handle them. I was speechless. Me, an advisor to the emperor. The woman who had been accused of theft, who had been hunted and nearly executed. It was almost too much to comprehend. I don't know what to say, I admitted. Say yes, Wei Cheng said softly. Say yes and show everyone what you're capable of. I looked at the emperor. He was watching me with a hint of a smile. I accept, I said. Thank you, Your Majesty. I won't let you down. I know you won't, he said. That's why I chose you. The meeting ended, and Wei Cheng and I walked out of the chamber together. The corridors seemed brighter now, the air lighter. I felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. You're going to be the emperor's advisor, Wei Cheng said, shaking his head. I don't even have words. Neither do I admitted. I never expected this. I never expected any of this. He stopped walking, turning to face me. Su Jin, I need to tell you something. Another confession, I asked, raising an eyebrow. I've never met anyone like you, he said, his voice earnest. You're smart, brave, unstoppable. And I've been a fool for ever doubting you. He reached out, taking my hand. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But if you'll give me one, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of your trust. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had watched me die in my past life. The man who had believed Yiting's lies. The man who had also risked everything to save me, who had fought for me, who had been the first to offer help when everyone else had turned away. One chance, I said slowly. One chance to prove yourself. That's all I can offer right now. He smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his stern face. That's all I need. We walked out of the palace together, into the bright morning sun. The city was waking up, the streets filling with merchants and laborers and families going about their daily lives. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I was part of that world. Not an outsider, not a fugitive. Just a woman with a future. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I moved into a small but comfortable chamber in the palace, and I began my duties as the emperor's advisor. There were meetings and audiences, petitions and debates. I learned the intricacies of court politics, navigated the treacherous waters of noble ambition, and slowly earned the respect of those who had once dismissed me as nothing more than a disgraced noblewoman. Wei Cheng was a constant presence. He supported me, encouraged me, and challenged me to be better. Our relationship grew slowly, cautiously, built on a foundation of mutual respect and hard-won trust. It wasn't the passionate romance of poets and storytellers. It was something deeper, something more real. One evening, as the sun set over the palace, we walked together through the imperial gardens. The flowers were in bloom, their fragrance filling the air. The sound of a distant fountain mingled with the chirping of birds. Have you visited your family? Wei Cheng asked. I shook my head. Not yet. I need time. Too much has happened. Your mother would want to see you, he said gently. She's been writing letters. Daily. I know. I sighed. But I'm not ready to face her. Not yet. I'm still angry. Angry that she didn't believe me. Angry that she let Yiting manipulate her. She was deceived, Wei Cheng said. Just like I was. You can't hold that against her forever. I stopped walking, turning to face him. Why are you defending her? I'm not defending her, he said. I'm just trying to help you see that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength. It's letting go of the past so you can move forward. I thought about his words. About Yiting, sitting in her cell. About my mother, writing letters I couldn't bring myself to read. About the anger that still simmered inside me. You're right, I admit it. I need to let go. But it's easier said than done. I know, he said, taking my hand. But you have time. And you have me. I leaned into him, letting his presence calm me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like everything might be okay. A few days later, I finally visited the dungeons. Yiting was in a small, dimly lit cell, her robes torn and dirty. She looked up when I approached, her eyes hollow. Come to gloat, she asked, her voice flat. No, I said. I came to tell you that I forgive you. She stared at me, disbelief written across her face. Forgive me after everything I've done? You must be insane. Maybe, I said. But holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I've spent too long being angry. I'm tired of it. Yiting laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You're still the same naive fool you've always been. You think forgiveness will save me? It won't. I'm going to die in this cell. Probably, I admit it. But that's not my choice. It's the Emperor's. And the law's. She looked away, her shoulders slumping. Why are you really here? Because I wanted to say goodbye, I said. And because I wanted you to know that despite everything, I still remember the girl you used to be. The girl who played with me in the garden. The girl who was my closest friend. I don't know what happened to her. But I mourn her. Yiting's eyes filled with tears. She died a long time ago, she whispered. She died the day she realized she would never be loved the way you were. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I didn't help you. It doesn't matter anymore, she said. It's too late. I turned to leave, but Yiting's voice stopped me. Su Jin. Wait. I looked back at her. She was crying now, her face streaked with tears. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. I was so consumed by jealousy and hatred that I couldn't see what I was doing. I destroyed myself. I destroyed our family. And I nearly destroyed you. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I nodded slowly. I know. And I forgive you. For whatever that's worth. I left her there, sitting in the darkness, her sobs echoing off the stone walls. I didn't look back. The trial was held a month later. The great hall was packed with nobles and officials, their faces a sea of anticipation. Yating was brought in, her hands in chains, her face pale and drawn. Lady Lu followed, her composure intact despite her circumstances. The emperor presided over the proceedings, his face unreadable. The evidence was presented: the forged letters, the jeweler's testimony, the confession from the magistrate's clerk. Lady Lu's crimes were laid bare for all to see. The court finds you guilty, the emperor announced. Lady Lu, you are sentenced to death. Your property will be confiscated, and your name will be stricken from the records. Lady Lu didn't flinch. She looked at me, her eyes cold and calculating. This isn't over, she said quietly. You may have won today, but you will always be nothing more than a commoner playing at power. I met her gaze without flinching. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll be alive. At least I'll be free. She was led away, her composure finally cracking as the reality of her situation set in. Yating followed, her face a mask of despair. She didn't look at me. She didn't say a word. The trial ended and the crowd dispersed. I walked out of the great hall, my heart heavy but my spirit free. It was finally over. Wei Cheng found me in the garden, sitting by the fountain. He sat down beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. Are you all right? He asked. I think so, I said. I'm just processing everything. It's been a long journey. It has, he agreed. But you've made it. You survived. You won. And now you have a future. I turned to look at him, his face illuminated by the setting sun. What about you? What do you want for your future? He took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. I want to spend it with you. If you'll let me. I smiled, a genuine smile that reached my eyes. I'd like that. We sat together as the sun dipped below the horizon, the stars beginning to appear in the sky. The past was behind us. The future stretched out ahead, full of possibility. And for the first time, I was ready to embrace it. Months passed. I thrived in my role as the emperor's advisor, earning a reputation for fairness and wisdom. Wei Cheng and I grew closer, our bond deepening with each passing day. I visited my family, reconciling with my mother and even my father. They had changed, humbled by the mistakes they had made. I didn't forget the past, but I chose to move forward. Yating was exiled to a remote village, her life spared but her freedom taken. I visited her once, a year later. She was living in a small cottage, tending a garden, her face weathered but peaceful. I never thought I'd see you again, she said, her voice quiet. Neither did I admit it. But I wanted to know if you were all right. I'm surviving, she said. It's not the life I wanted, but it's the life I have. I nodded. Goodbye, Yating. Goodbye, Sujin. I walked away, leaving her to her garden and her peace. I had closure. I had forgiveness. And I had a future. As I rode back to the capital, Wei Cheng at my side, I thought about everything that had brought me to this point. The betrayal, the death, the rebirth, the struggle, and finally, the victory. I had been given a second chance. And I had made the most of it. The stars were bright overhead, the road stretching out before us. Wei Cheng reached over and took my hand. What are you thinking about? He asked. Everything, I said. How far I've come. How much has changed. How grateful I am to be here. You deserve it, he said. You deserve all of it. I smiled, squeezing his hand. So do you. We both do. We rode on, the wind at our backs, the future calling us forward. I didn't know what awaited us. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. Ready for whatever came next. Ready to live the life I had fought so hard to claim. Ready to be happy. And as the lights of the capital appeared in the distance, I knew that the journey was just beginning.